Every anti-aging foundation makes the same promise. Fight your lines, turn back the clock. But after 30 years doing makeup, most of them settle into your wrinkles by lunchtime and advertise every year on your face. So I tested the 10 most popular ones on real clients over a full 8-hour day. Only 3 didn't betray the skin they were sitting on. Number 1, MAC Studio Fix Fluid. This used to live in my professional kit about 15 years ago. I recommended it to clients all the time, but formulas need to evolve the way your skin does, and Studio Fix is stuck in the past. My client was 50 with combination skin, and she'd been loyal to this bottle since her 30s. Under my salon lights, the problem showed up within the first hour. The pigment is heavy, too heavy. It doesn't blend with the skin. It sits on top of it like a coat of paint. By noon, it had oxidized about 2 shades darker along her hairline and jawline. You could literally see the line where the foundation stopped and her neck started. That orange shift is a dead giveaway that a formula is fighting your chemistry instead of working with it. By 4, it had crept into every crease and the finish looked dated and thick. 2 out of 10. If you've been using this since your 30s, it's time to move on. The next foundation on this list has a fan base that might come after me for what I'm about to say. Number 2, Estee Lauder Double Wear. I know, half of you just clutched your makeup bag because this foundation has a loyal following. And I understand why. When you first apply it, the coverage is gorgeous, it photographs like a dream. But Double Wear was built for skin that doesn't have texture yet. My client was a beautiful 53-year-old with normal to combination skin and smile lines around her mouth. By noon, the formula had settled into every one of those lines like it was drawing a map. The finish went flat and chalky across her T-zone. By 4 o'clock, the skin around her eyes looked like cracked clay. She looked more tired wearing foundation than she did barefaced that morning. 3 out of 10. The coverage shows up, but it punishes your skin for having lived a life. If you think that was rough, the next one scored even lower. Number 3, Fenty Beauty Pro Filter. I respect what Rihanna did for shade range. That was genuinely impressive and long overdue. But this formula on mature skin is a disaster. My client was 47 with some dry patches along her jawline and fine lines across her forehead. Within 90 minutes, the Fenty had grabbed onto every dry spot like Velcro. It amplified texture I didn't even realize she had. The matte finish, which looks stunning on younger skin in beauty campaign lighting, turned completely mask-like on her face. The finish looked flat and stiff, like the skin underneath had stopped breathing. By afternoon, the product had started separating around her nose and pulling away from her chin. I grew up around Korean skincare, and there's a word for this kind of finish: dead skin. The glow was completely gone and there was nothing alive underneath it. 1 out of 10. If you're dealing with any dryness or fine lines, walk right past this one. After that disaster, I was hoping number 4 would at least play it safe. Number 4, Clinique Even Better Clinical Serum Foundation. Clinique plays it safe, and this foundation is exactly that. Safe. Unremarkable. My client was 52 with sensitive skin and rosacea across her cheeks. The formula went on gently, blended without any irritation, and gave a light, comfortable coverage. Points for that. But even better should actually mean something, and by noon the coverage had faded to almost nothing. The redness she wanted concealed was peeking right through again. By early afternoon, she basically looked like she was wearing a very expensive tinted moisturizer. The formula didn't cake or crease, and it stayed out of her lines. I'll give it that. But it also didn't really do anything worth the price tag. 4 out of 10. Didn't make things worse. Shouldn't be the highest compliment you can pay a $60 foundation. The next one promised something the others hadn't. I wanted to believe it. Number 5, NARS Natural Radiant Longwear. The name promises natural radiant. I expected something luminous and forgiving on mature skin. What I got was a formula that looked oily on my client within 3 hours, then flipped and went patchy by afternoon. She was 55 with normal skin that runs a little dry in the cooler months. The first hour was promising. Nice glow, solid coverage, good shade match. But NARS has this pattern of looking beautiful early and then slowly falling apart. By noon, the product had pooled in her under-eye area, and her pores were more visible than before she sat down. The radiance had turned into a slick, greasy sheen across her cheekbones that didn't look dewy. It looked like she'd been sweating. By 4, some areas had full products sitting on top, while others had worn completely bare. 2 out of 10. Inconsistent wear is almost worse than total failure because you never know what your face is going to look like after lunch. 5 foundations tested, and not a single one I'd recommend. I was starting to think this entire test was going to be a total wash. Number 6. Luxe Color Changing Foundation. When someone handed me this bottle and told me the formula changes color to match your skin, I was skeptical. I've heard every gimmick pitch in 30 years, but I put it on my client anyway. She's 58, combination skin, deeper smile lines, and she'd already been burned by most of the foundations on this list. I watched the formula shift from a white cream to her exact shade within about 30 seconds of touching her skin. I have never seen anything do that in 3 decades of professional makeup work. By noon, her lines were invisible and the color hadn't budged. That bouncy, hydrated finish Korean beauty artists call chok chok was still there at 4 o'clock. It melts into your texture instead of sitting on top and fighting it. Because it adapts to your specific chemistry, there's none of that dreaded orange shift you get with traditional formulas. It just becomes your skin on its best day. My client actually told me she found it cheaper on Amazon, so I'm going to leave a link in the description below. 10 out of 10. The only perfect score I've given in 30 years of testing. After that, I almost didn't want to keep going, but I had 4 more bottles lined up. Number 7, Tarte Amazonian Clay. I had hopes for this one because the formula is marketed as long-wearing and oil-controlling. My client was 49 with oily skin and some sun damage along her cheekbones. The Amazonian Clay went on thick right from the first brush stroke. It felt heavy immediately. By the 2-hour mark, the product had started cracking along her forehead lines. I wish I were exaggerating, but my client looked in the mirror at noon and said, "I look like I need to go home and take a nap." The ultra matte finish aged her a solid decade. Every pore was amplified. Every fine line was highlighted. The clay formula essentially baked onto her skin in the worst possible way, like dried mud on a cracked riverbed. She wiped it off before 4 because she couldn't stand wearing it another minute. 1 out of 10. This formula treats mature skin like a problem to solve instead of something to work with. I needed something to restore my faith after that one. And for the first time since the Luxe, I got it. Number 8. Lancome Teint Idole Ultra Wear. My client for this one is 61 with gorgeous bone structure, and she was deeply frustrated with every foundation she'd tried making her look older by dinner. The Lancome went on smooth, blended beautifully, and gave this really natural semi-matte finish that didn't flatten her skin. By noon, it still looked like morning. That almost never happens in my chair. There was some minor settling in the deeper lines around her mouth by late afternoon, and it did transfer a bit onto her mask when she stepped out for an errand. But for the price point, the wear time was seriously impressive. Her skin still looked like skin at the end of the day. It wasn't cakey or cracked or chalky. 7 out of 10. This is one of only 3 foundations that passed my full day test. If you've got a solid skincare routine underneath, Lancome won't let you down. 2 winners out of 8. I was starting to feel better about this list. That didn't last. Number 9. IT Cosmetics CC Plus Cream. This brand markets itself as skincare meets makeup, and a lot of women over 40 have adopted it as their everyday go-to. My client was 56 and had been using the CC cream daily for 2 years. Fresh application looked promising, soft finish, decent hydration, reasonable coverage for a CC cream, but the SPF causes flashback under certain lighting, which nobody warns you about until you see yourself looking ghostly in photographs at your daughter's wedding. By noon, the product had started migrating around her nose and chin, not exactly creasing, more like sliding off. By 4, her T-zone was shiny and the coverage along her jawline had vanished. 3 out of 10. In Korean skincare, we say the best base should feel like a second skin. This one felt like a layer of sunscreen that couldn't decide whether it wanted to be makeup. 9 tested, 2 winners, 1 perfect score. I had 1 bottle left. Number 10. Hourglass Vanish Seamless Finish Liquid Foundation. The second I started blending this in, I knew it was different. My client was 63 with deeper lines around her eyes and mouth, and she has genuinely tried everything over the years. The Hourglass went on like velvet, thin, buildable, and it melted right into her skin instead of sitting on the surface. By noon, her complexion looked even better than it did at 8 that morning. I am not exaggerating. The finish has this beautiful soft luminosity that photographs well in any lighting, and it didn't crease, settle, or oxidize through the entire test. Some very minor fading around her nose by late afternoon, and I mean minor. We're talking a 30-second touch-up fix, not a full reapplication. The shade range is solid, the formula works well on both dry and combination skin, and it respects your texture instead of trying to argue with it. 8 out of 10. If the Luxe color-changing foundation is the gold standard, Hourglass is a very strong runner-up. 2 of only 3 foundations that survived a full working day without making my client look older than when she walked in. So there it is. Out of 10 of the biggest anti-aging foundations on the market, 7 of them made my clients look more tired, more textured, or just plain older by the end of a normal day. 7. The 3 that earned your trust were Lancome at 7 out of 10, Hourglass at 8 out of 10, and the Luxe Color Changing Foundation at a perfect 10. If you're over 40 and you've been burning through bottles that promise to turn back the clock but settle into your lines by lunchtime, start with the Luxe. I left that Amazon link in the description for you. In Korea, we have a philosophy that your skin should always come first. The best makeup should be invisible. It shouldn't fight your face, it should honor it. And after 3 decades in this chair, the foundation worth keeping is the one you forget you're wearing.